The night was colder than usual. Not the kind of cold that makes people shiver for a moment and then rush into warm homes, but the kind that sinks into the bones and refuses to leave. The girl pulled her thin jacket tighter around herself as she sat on the sidewalk, her back pressed against a cracked brick wall. The city lights shined brightly just a few feet away, but none of that light ever seemed to reach her. Cars passed by. Shoes walked past her face. Laughter echoed in the distance. Yet she felt invisible, like a shadow no one wanted to notice. Her stomach growled softly, a painful reminder that she hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. She had learned how to ignore that sound most days, but tonight it felt louder, stronger, almost cruel. People avoided her eyes when they passed. Some looked at her with pity, others with fear, a few with disgust. She had seen those looks so many times that they no longer surprised her, but they still hurt. Every single time. She was tired, not just physically, but deep inside her heart. Once, long ago, her life had been different. She hadn't always slept on sidewalks or counted coins for food. She remembered warmth, a small home, a voice that used to tell her everything would be okay. That voice was gone now, taken by a past she didn't talk about anymore. Some losses were too heavy to put into words. The girl lowered her head, staring at her hands. They were rough and cold, marked by struggle. Still, she held them close, as if protecting something unseen. Even after everything life had taken from her, one thing remained untouched, her sense of right and wrong. She had seen others steal to survive. She understood why they did it. Hunger can push people to dark places, but something inside her always stopped her, a quiet voice reminding her who she was, even when the world treated her like nothing. "I won't lose that too," she whispered to herself, barely loud enough to hear. The wind howled through the street, carrying scraps of paper and dust along the pavement. She stood up slowly, brushing dirt from her clothes. Moving helped keep her warm, even if only a little. She took a few steps forward, her eyes fixed on the ground, scanning for anything useful. An empty bottle, spare change, anything. Then she saw it. Lying near the edge of the sidewalk was something dark and out of place. It hadn't been there a moment ago. The street light above flickered, casting a weak glow over the object. She stopped. Her heart beat faster as she stepped closer. It was a wallet. Not old, not torn. It looked expensive, heavy, full. She stared at it, frozen, as the cold air wrapped around her and the city noise faded into the background. For a moment, the world felt strangely quiet. Her fingers trembled as she reached down. She didn't know it yet, but that single moment on a cold night when she had nothing was about to change everything. The girl picked up the wallet slowly, as if it might disappear if she moved too fast. It felt heavier than she expected, not just in her hand, but in her chest. She looked around first. No one was watching. People hurried past, wrapped in their coats, lost in their own worlds. To them, she was still invisible. That made her heart pound even harder. Her fingers hesitated before opening it. Inside, there were stacks of crisp bills, neatly arranged. Not a few dollars, not even 100. This was more money than she had ever held in her life. Enough to eat for weeks. Enough to sleep somewhere warm. Enough to stop the pain in her stomach and the fear in her heart. At least for a while. Her breath caught. For a moment, she forgot how cold she was. Her mind raced. With this money, she wouldn't have to beg tomorrow. She wouldn't have to curl up on the sidewalk again tonight. She imagined hot food, clean clothes, a locked door. Simple things people took for granted, but things she dreamed of every night. Her hands shook as she closed the wallet. This could save me, she thought. Her stomach twisted with hunger, almost as if it were begging her to take it. No one would blame her, she told herself. The world had never been fair to her. Why should she be fair now? But then another voice rose inside her, quiet, steady, and familiar. A memory surfaced, soft but sharp at the same time. She saw herself as a child, sitting at a small kitchen table. A tired but gentle face across from her. A voice that once meant safety. Even when you have nothing, that voice had said, "Don't take what isn't yours. If you lose your honesty, you lose yourself." Her chest tightened. She had broken that promise once before. Long ago. Out of fear. Out of desperation. And the shame that followed had stayed with her longer than the hunger ever did. She had never forgiven herself for it. Whoever owned this wallet wasn't struggling to survive. That made the choice harder. And easier. Harder because the money meant warmth and safety. Easier because, deep down, she knew it didn't belong to someone like her. It belonged to a world far above the sidewalk she slept on. Her fingers dug into the wallet as she stood there, fighting herself. The wind blew harder, cutting through her clothes. Her stomach growled again, louder this time, as if reminding her of the cost of honesty. Choosing to return it meant staying cold, staying hungry, staying unseen. It also meant risking rejection, accusation, being blamed or ignored. Still, she straightened her shoulders. "They can take everything else," she whispered, "but not this." She slipped the wallet carefully into her jacket, not like a thief, but like a guardian. With every step she took, fear followed her. Fear of being judged. Fear of being turned away. Fear that doing the right thing would only bring more pain. But beneath that fear was something stronger. Pride. As she walked toward the bright buildings ahead, where powerful people lived and worked, she had no idea who she was about to meet. Only that her choice, made on a cold street with an empty stomach, was about to test her in ways she never imagined. And somewhere far away, a powerful man was about to realize something priceless was missing. High above the cold streets, where the city looked small and quiet through glass windows, the billionaire stood in his office. The room was wide and spotless, filled with soft lights and polished wood. Everything around him spoke of success. Expensive furniture, shining awards, walls lined with power and praise. Yet none of it brought him peace. He loosened his tie and exhaled slowly, staring out at the city below. From up here, the people looked like moving dots. Controlled, distant, easy to ignore. He had built his life on control. Every meeting followed his rules. Every deal ended on his terms. His name opened doors and closed mouths. People listened when he spoke, not because they cared, but because they had to. Still, when the room fell silent, something inside him felt painfully loud. Lonely. He turned away from the window and reached into his pocket, then stopped. His brow tightened. The wallet wasn't there. At first, he dismissed it. Maybe it was in his other jacket. Maybe he'd left it in the car. But the thought refused to leave his mind. That wallet held more than money. It held his identity, his cards, his sense of order. He pressed the intercom, his voice sharp and impatient, demanding answers. Assistants rushed. Calls were made. Security was alerted. The room filled with movement, but inside him, a different feeling grew. Irritation. How does something like this just disappear? He muttered. His tone carried more than anger. It carried disbelief. He wasn't used to losing things. Or control. As he paced the room, memories he tried to bury began to surface. A home once filled with laughter, now empty. A family he had pushed aside for success. A child he had promised to make time for, but never did. The child was gone now. The thought struck him like a quiet storm. He pushed it away, just as he always did. Regret was a weakness. Emotion was a distraction. At least, that's what he had told himself for years. Money had replaced meaning. Power had replaced connection. And yet, here he was, upset over a missing wallet. The irony escaped him. To him, the wallet was proof of who he was. Without it, he felt exposed, vulnerable, almost human. He scoffed at the thought. If someone found it, he said coldly, they'd keep it. People always do. In his world, kindness came with a price. Trust was a tool. People at the bottom were invisible unless they caused trouble. Still, as the minutes passed, a strange tension settled in his chest. The loss bothered him more than it should have. Not because of the money, but because it reminded him that not everything could be controlled. Down below, life continued without him. The same streets he never noticed. The same people he never saw. He had no idea that at this very moment, a young girl with nothing but a thin jacket and strong values was walking toward his world, carrying not just his wallet, but a truth he had avoided for years. And when their paths crossed, neither of them would remain the same. The city looked different when you walked through it with nothing to protect you. The girl moved carefully through crowded streets, the wallet hidden deep inside her jacket. Every step felt heavy, as if the weight of that small object pressed against her heart. People brushed past her, some bumping her shoulder without apology. A few stared too long. Others turned away, pretending she wasn't there at all. She checked the card again when no one was watching. The name, the logo, the address printed beneath it. A tall building in the business district, far from the place she usually stayed, far from safety. Her feet ached as she walked. The hunger inside her burned sharper with every block she passed. Twice she almost stopped. Twice she thought about turning back, finding a quiet corner, and ending the struggle. No one would know, her mind whispered, but she kept walking. At the edge of a busy street, a group of men stood laughing loudly. As she passed, one of them noticed the way she clutched her jacket. His eyes narrowed. She felt fear crawl up her spine. She crossed the street quickly, her heart racing, not daring to look back until she reached the other side. Her hand shook. This wasn't just about honesty anymore. It was about survival. When she finally reached the business district, everything felt wrong. The buildings rose high into the sky, their glass walls shining under bright lights. Security guards stood at entrances, tall and alert. People in clean coats and polished shoes moved with purpose, their faces serious and sure. She stopped near the curb. Her reflection stared back at her from a glass door. Messy hair, worn clothes, tired eyes. She barely recognized herself. Who am I kidding, she thought. She stepped forward anyway. A guard blocked her path before she could even speak. His eyes swept over her, quick and cold. He didn't ask what she wanted. He didn't need to. She tried to explain, her voice low and careful. She reached into her jacket, slowly, showing her hands so he wouldn't think she was a threat. The guard shook his head. People like her didn't belong here. Others nearby stared. Some whispered. A woman pulled her purse closer. A man frowned like she was wasting his time just by standing there. Heat rushed her face. Shame burned deep. For a moment, she wanted to run, to disappear back into the shadows where no one expected anything from her, where no one judged her for trying to do the right thing. Her knees felt weak. Then she remembered the promise, the voice from her past, the person she used to be before the world broke her. She straightened her back. Again, she explained. Again, she was ignored. Time passed. The cold crept back in. Her stomach twisted painfully. Still, she didn't move. Finally, after what felt like forever, someone listened. Not kindly, not warmly, but enough. She was told to wait. As she sat on a bench outside the building, the city buzzed around her, loud and uncaring. She didn't know what would happen next. She didn't know if she would be accused, turned away, or forgotten. All she knew was that she had come this far. Above her, in one of those shining floors, the man who owned the wallet was growing more impatient by the minute. And for the first time in her life, the girl waited, not for food, not for mercy, but for her honesty to matter. The room was too clean, too quiet. The girl stood near the doorway, her hands folded tightly in front of her, afraid to touch anything. The floor beneath her feet shined like a mirror, reflecting her worn shoes and frayed clothes. She felt small, as if the walls themselves were judging her. Two men in dark suits stood nearby, their eyes sharp and doubtful. They didn't speak to her like a person. They spoke around her, as if she were a problem that needed to be solved quickly. She felt every stare, every pause, every silent question. Why is she here? What does she want? Can she be trusted? Her throat tightened, but she forced herself to stay calm. She slowly reached into her jacket and placed the wallet on the table between them. The sound it made when it touched the surface felt louder than it should have. One of the men opened it. His eyes widened just a little before he quickly hid the reaction. He checked the cards, the name, the details. It was his. Across the room, the billionaire stood near the window, his back turned. He had been listening without speaking, watching without moving. He turned slowly. For the first time, their eyes met. The girl felt her chest tighten. This was the man whose world she had stepped into without permission. He looked nothing like her. His clothes were perfect, his posture strong, his face calm, but distant, cold. His gaze moved over her carefully, taking in her appearance. The dirt on her sleeves, the tired lines on her face, the way she stood, proud but unsure. Suspicion flickered in his eyes. People like him had learned to doubt first and feel later. He walked closer, stopping a few steps away. The room felt smaller now. He didn't smile. He didn't thank her. His face showed no relief, no gratitude, only control. She waited. Seconds passed, each one stretched like a test. He picked up the wallet, opened it himself, and confirmed what he already knew. Everything was there, untouched, perfectly intact. His jaw tightened. Something didn't make sense. If she had wanted money, she could have taken it. No one would have stopped her. No one would have even noticed. And yet, she stood here with nothing to gain and everything to lose. Still, his voice remained firm, guarded. He had been fooled before. Trust had cost him too much. He studied her closely now. Not just her clothes, but her eyes. There was fear there, and hunger, and exhaustion, but there was no greed. That unsettled him. The men beside him exchanged looks, unsure what to do next. This was not how things usually went. People who returned lost items often wanted something. Praise, reward, attention. She wanted none of it. The silence grew heavier. The girl shifted her weight, unsure if she was allowed to speak, or if she had already said too much by simply being there. Every second without a response felt like judgment. She wondered if this had been a mistake. Maybe the world didn't want honesty from someone like her. The billionaire finally closed the wallet and placed it on the table. His expression didn't change. His eyes revealed nothing. Not anger, not gratitude, not kindness, just distance. She braced herself. This could go any way. She could be accused of theft, thrown out, forgotten the moment she stepped back onto the street. Or worse, used as an example of something she wasn't. The room waited with her. And in that silence, two lives stood at the edge of a moment neither of them understood yet. One shaped by power, the other by survival. Both unsure of what would happen next. The silence in the room finally broke, but not in the way the girl expected. The billionaire did not offer thanks. He did not reach for his wallet and smile with relief. Instead, he leaned back slightly, his face calm, unreadable. His eyes stayed on her, sharp and searching, as if he were looking for something hidden beneath the surface. People around him waited. So did she. He spoke carefully, not with anger, but not with kindness either. There was a pause in his words that made her uneasy. He asked questions that did not sound like gratitude. They sounded like doubt. Why hadn't she taken the money? How did she find the building? Why bring it back herself? Each question felt like a weight added to her shoulders. She answered simply. She didn't explain her hunger. She didn't describe the cold nights or the empty stomach. She didn't tell him how afraid she had been. She spoke only the truth, quietly, without trying to convince anyone of anything. That surprised him. Most people try to prove their worth. She did not. Then came a test. He closed the wall again and set it aside, just out of her reach. His voice remained even as he offered a choice, one that felt unfair, heavy, and confusing. He suggested she could leave now and let the matter end quietly. No reward, no recognition, no trouble, or she could stay longer. Answer more questions. Risk being misunderstood. The room felt colder. This was not what she had prepared for. She had expected judgment, maybe dismissal, maybe anger. But this, her heart beat faster. Leaving would be easy. She could walk away and return to the streets with nothing but her pride. Staying meant more waiting, more hunger, more eyes judging her worth. For a moment, doubt crept in. Was honesty supposed to hurt this much? She looked at the floor, then slowly lifted her head. Her shoulders were tense, but her eyes were steady. She did not argue. She did not demand anything. She did not ask for help. She made her choice quietly. She stayed. That single decision echoed louder than any speech could have. Something shifted in the room. The billionaire noticed it too. There was no fear in her posture, only patience. No expectation in her eyes, only resolve. She wasn't staying because she hoped for money. She was staying because leaving would mean giving up her truth. That unsettled him more than anger ever could. He had spent his life surrounded by people who wanted something from him. Money, power, approval. Even love often came with conditions. This girl wanted nothing. A flicker of something passed across his face. It was small, almost invisible, but it was there. Regret. He thought of the deals he had made, the corners he had cut, the promises he had delayed until they broke. He had always believed strength meant never bending. Yet here she was, thin, tired, with nothing to protect her, and she stood firmer than most men he knew. The test was supposed to reveal her character. Instead, it revealed his. He turned away for a moment, pretending to check something on the table, but the truth pressed in on him. The wallet no longer felt important. The money inside meant nothing. What mattered was the choice she had made when no one was watching. The room felt different now. He could feel it. So could she. She didn't know what was coming next, but she sensed that something had already changed. Not in her situation, but in him. And whatever decision he made next would not just affect her life. It would expose his own. The room had grown quiet again, but this time the silence felt different. He stood near the table, his hand resting close to the wallet, yet he did not look at it. His eyes were on the girl, on the calm strength in her face, on the tired honesty she carried without shame. For the first time, he spoke without testing her. He asked her about her past. The question was simple, but it opened something deep inside her. She hesitated, not because she wanted to hide the truth, but because some memories still hurt to touch. Slowly, carefully, she shared pieces of her story. Not all of it, just enough. She spoke of losing the only person who had ever truly protected her, of promises made and broken, of one bad choice that had pushed her life off balance, of nights spent blaming herself, and mornings spent choosing to keep going anyway. She did not cry. That was what struck him most. Pain had shaped her, but it had not destroyed her. As she spoke, something inside the billionaire began to crack. Her words stirred memories he had locked away for years. A home once filled with laughter. A child waiting by the door for a father who was always too busy. A phone call he had ignored. A chance he never got back. Loss had visited them both. Only one of them had learned how to carry it with grace. He turned away, walking slowly toward the window. The city lights flickered below, bright and distant. For years, he had stood in this very spot, believing success would fill the empty spaces inside him. It never had. He realized then that the wallet was never what he had truly lost. He had lost time. He had lost connection. He had lost himself. Behind him, the girl waited, unsure if she had said too much. Her hands were clasped tightly, but her back remained straight. She had spoken her truth, and whatever came next, she would accept it. He turned back to face her. For the first time, his expression was no longer guarded. It was tired, honest. He admitted things he had never said out loud before. Not to his staff, not to his family, not even to himself. He spoke of choosing work over people, of measuring life in numbers instead of moments, of believing power could protect him from regret. It hadn't. Her honesty had forced him to see the cost of his choices. The room felt heavier with emotion now, but also lighter, like something long buried had finally been uncovered. The wallet sat forgotten on the table. Money meant nothing in this moment. What mattered was the truth standing between them, that a girl with nothing had held onto her values, while a man with everything had almost lost his. He looked at her again, not as a problem, not as a stranger, but as a person who had unknowingly held up a mirror to his soul. Redemption did not come with noise or applause. It arrived quietly, in understanding, in regret, in the chance to do something right. He took a slow breath. The girl sensed it too, that this moment was bigger than both of them, that whatever happened next would not just change her path, but his as well. The air felt charged, full of possibility and fear. This was not the end of her struggle, but it was the beginning of something neither of them expected. And as he stepped closer, ready to make a choice that would shock everyone, one thing was clear. The greatest loss had already been found. The billionaire stood still for a long moment. Everyone in the room waited. The girl felt her heartbeat in her ears. After everything she had said, after everything he had revealed, She no longer knew what to expect. Her honesty was out in the open now. There was nothing left to protect her from disappointment. He finally reached for the wallet, but instead of opening it, he pushed it aside. That alone surprised everyone. Then he did something no one expected. He asked the others to leave the room. The assistants hesitated. This was not normal. Meetings like this were never private. But his voice was firm. Final. One by one, they stepped out, closing the door behind them. Now it was just the two of them. The power in the room shifted. He looked at her, not from above, not as someone judging her worth, but at eye level. His voice was calm when he spoke, free of tests or doubt. He told her that returning the wallet was not the reason she was still standing there. Her choice was. He explained that money given out of pity fades quickly. It creates dependence. It reminds people of what they lack. He would not do that to her. Instead, he offered her something far more rare. Respect. He told her he wanted to change the way the situation ended. Not just for her, but for himself. For the first time in years, he was choosing values over comfort. He made a call. Within minutes, the room filled again. Not with guards, but with professionals. Not to watch her, but to listen. He spoke clearly, publicly, so there would be no misunderstanding. He acknowledged her honesty. He acknowledged her courage. He acknowledged that she had done the right thing when no one would have blamed her for doing otherwise. Then he made his decision. He offered her an opportunity, not a handout, but a path forward. A safe place to stay. Education support. Work that paid fairly. A chance to rebuild with dignity, not charity. The room went silent. People stared. This was not how things were done. He didn't stop there. He admitted, out loud, that her actions had exposed something missing in his own life. That his company had focused too much on profit and too little on people. He announced changes that would affect more than just her. New programs, new priorities, a shift in how success will be measured. Some were stunned. Some were uncomfortable. Some quietly nodded, as if they had been waiting for this moment. The girl stood frozen. She hadn't come for this. She hadn't asked for anything. And yet, here it was, an open door instead of a closed one. Her eyes filled, but she held her tears back. She had learned long ago that emotion was often seen as weakness. Still, her voice trembled slightly as she accepted, not with excitement, but with quiet gratitude. Not because she was being saved, but because she was being seen. As words spread through the building, reactions followed quickly. Some praised the decision. Others questioned it. Why her? Why now? He didn't explain himself. He didn't need to. For the first time in years, he felt aligned with something real. Something human. The empty space inside him felt lighter, not gone but healing. The wallet lay forgotten on the table. Money had lost its power. The girl walked out of that building different from how she entered. Not because she was suddenly rich, but because she had proof that doing the right thing still mattered. And the billionaire watched her go, knowing that in one unexpected night, a homeless girl had returned more than his wallet. The first morning after the meeting felt strange to the girl. She woke up in a small room with clean sheets and a warm blanket. The air smelled different, like safety, not fear. For the first time in a long time, she didn't have to worry about where she would sleep that night. She sat on the bed and looked around. There was a window with sunlight pouring in, a small table with a notebook and a pen. Simple things, but they felt like a miracle. She remembered the night she found the wallet, the cold, the hunger, the fear, how close she had been to choosing the easy path. Now, she had a chance to rebuild her life. She didn't feel rich. She didn't feel powerful. But she felt something she hadn't felt in years: hope. Over the next weeks, she began to heal. She got medical checkups. She was given a small job that paid fairly. She started learning new skills. She even began to smile again, slowly, as if she was learning how to live in the world instead of just surviving it. The most important change wasn't money. It was dignity. No one treated her like a problem anymore. No one looked at her as if she didn't belong. People spoke to her kindly, as if she mattered. She still remembered the streets. She still remembered the hunger. But those memories didn't control her anymore. She was building a new story. Far above the city, the billionaire sat in his office again, but this time the room felt different. It wasn't just a place of power. It was a place of reflection. He had changed more than his business plans. He had changed his heart. He began to focus on projects that helped people like her. He started listening more than he spoke. He stopped seeing life as a series of deals and started seeing it as a series of choices, each one shaping who he was. Sometimes he still felt the old emptiness. Sometimes he still felt the guilt. But now he didn't run from it. He faced it. He accepted it. He used it to become better. The wallet he had lost was no longer important. He kept it in a drawer, not as a reminder of money, but as a reminder of a moment that saved him. One day, he saw the girl again, not in his office, but at a community center where she was helping others. She had become a symbol of hope for people who felt invisible. He watched from the doorway, quiet and careful, like a man who didn't want to scare her. She didn't see him at first. Then she looked up, and their eyes met. She smiled, not with fear, not with expectation, with gratitude. He nodded, a small, sincere gesture. No fanfare, no speech, just a silent understanding. In that moment, the story wasn't about a wallet anymore. It was about two people who had lost something important and found it again in a way they never expected. She found her dignity. He found his humanity. And the world, for a moment, felt a little kinder.